The hospital called at 3:47 a.m. and told me my daughter was alive. The same daughter I buried 31 years ago. The same daughter whose funeral I paid for, whose headstone I visit every Sunday, whose room I kept exactly the way she left it for 3 decades. I thought it was a sick prank. I thought I was losing my mind. But then the nurse said 5 words that stopped my heart. She knows about the lucky moon. Nobody knew about that birthmark. Nobody except our family. And I knew right then that everything I believed for 31 years was about to shatter. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story gets darker and more twisted than you can imagine, and you'll want to hear every single word. Trust me on this one. My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 63 years old, and until last Tuesday I thought I knew exactly how my life story went. I was a father who lost his daughter to the monsters that lurk in the shadows of every city. I was a husband who watched his wife nearly die from grief. I was a man who spent 3 decades learning to live with a hole in his heart that nothing could fill. I was wrong about all of it. The phone rang 3 times before I picked up. At my age, you learn that calls in the middle of the night never bring good news. Heart attacks, accidents, death. That's what 3 a.m. phone calls are for. I answered anyway, my hand shaking as I pressed the phone to my ear. Hello. There was static on the line, that crackling sound that makes you think the connection might drop any second. Then a woman's voice came through, professional but with an edge of urgency that made my stomach drop. Is this Robert Mitchell? Yes, this is Robert. Who is this? Mr. Mitchell, my name is Sarah Chen. I'm a social worker at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. I'm calling about your daughter. I felt the room tilt. My wife Elizabeth was still asleep beside me, and I was glad for that. She didn't need to hear this. Not another one of these calls. We'd gotten them before, twice, in the first 10 years after Amanda disappeared. Con artists. People who read about missing children and thought they could exploit grieving parents for money. I don't have a daughter, I said. My voice came out flat, dead. My daughter died 31 years ago. There was a pause on the other end, a long pause that made me want to hang up, to go back to sleep, to pretend this conversation never happened. Mr. Mitchell, the woman said carefully, I understand this must be shocking. But the woman here with us, she has identification. She says her name is Amanda Mitchell. She has a birthmark on her left shoulder blade, shaped like a crescent moon. She says you used to call it her lucky moon when she was little. The phone slipped from my hand. I caught it before it hit the floor, but my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it again. The lucky moon, that's what I'd called it. Amanda had been terrified of the dark when she was 3 years old, waking up screaming every night. So I made up a story about how she had a lucky moon on her back, a special mark that would protect her whenever she was scared. We never told anyone about it, not the police when we filed the missing person report, not the private investigators we hired. It was our secret, our private thing, the kind of detail a family keeps to themselves. Where is she? I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. St. Paul's Hospital, the psychiatric unit. She was brought in 2 days ago after a crisis intervention. She's stable now, but she's been asking for you. She says she finally remembers who she is. I looked at the clock. 3:49 a.m. Vancouver was a 4-hour drive from Kelowna, maybe 5 if I hit morning traffic. I was already pulling on my jeans, grabbing yesterday's shirt from the chair. I'm coming, I said. I'm leaving right now. Mr. Mitchell, wait, we need to discuss some things before you come. She's been through significant trauma. Her memories are fragmented. There are things you need to understand. I'll understand when I see her, I said and hung up. Elizabeth was awake now, sitting up in bed with that look on her face, the one she gets when she knows I'm about to do something that might break both of us. Who was that? She asked. Someone says they found Amanda. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. Bill, no, not again. We can't do this again. She knew about the birthmark, Lizzie. She knew about the lucky moon. I watched my wife's face crumble. We'd been through this before, the hope and the crushing disappointment. But this was different. This wasn't some stranger claiming to be our daughter for money. This was someone who knew our secret. I'm going to Vancouver, I said. If it's real, I'll call you immediately. If it's not, I couldn't finish that sentence. If it wasn't real, I didn't know what I would do. How many times can a man lose the same daughter before it destroys him completely? Elizabeth stood up, reached for her clothes. I'm coming with you. No, I said, more gently than I felt. Stay here. Please. If this is real, I need you to be here, solid and whole, so I have something to come back to. She understood. After 42 years of marriage, she always understood. The drive to Vancouver was 4 hours of pure hell. I kept the radio off because I needed silence to think, to prepare myself for whatever I was about to find. The highway stretched out in front of me in the pre-dawn darkness, and all I could think about was the last time I saw my daughter. Amanda had been 17 years old when she disappeared. December 14th, 1993. She told us she was going to a friend's house after school to study for finals. We found out later she'd actually gone to meet a boy. Not the boy we thought she was dating, some clean-cut kid from her calculus class, but an older guy. 23 years old, worked at an auto body shop on the east side of town. They'd had a fight. He left her at a bus stop on Hastings Street at 11 p.m. Angry, alone, in one of the worst parts of the city. That was the last confirmed sighting of Amanda Mitchell. For 3 years, we searched. Put up posters with her face on them all over the city. Worked with police. Hired private investigators we couldn't afford. Elizabeth stopped sleeping. I stopped everything that wasn't work or searching. Our marriage nearly collapsed under the weight of our grief. Then in 1996, they found remains. Female, approximately 17 to 19 years old, discovered in a wooded area outside Mission, British Columbia. The dental records were inconclusive. The body had been there too long, exposed to the elements, animals, decay, but there was other evidence. Scraps of clothing that matched what Amanda had been wearing. A silver bracelet we'd given her for her 16th birthday. And DNA, degraded but testable, that the lab said was a probable match. Probably not definite, but it was enough. Enough for the police to close the case. Enough for us to have a funeral. Enough to finally, mercifully, stop hoping. We buried her on a gray morning in March 1996. I remember standing by that grave, watching them lower the casket into the ground, and thinking that at least now I knew. At least the not knowing was over. At least I could start to heal. Except you never really heal from losing a child. You just learn to live with the wound. I arrived at St. Paul's Hospital just after 8 a.m. The psychiatric unit was on the 4th floor, and I had to be buzzed in through 2 sets of locked doors. A security guard checked my ID, made me sign in, took my phone. Standard procedure, they said, for everyone's safety. Sarah Chen was waiting for me in the hallway. She was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with kind eyes and the careful expression of someone who's seen too much suffering. Mr. Mitchell, she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. Before you see her, we need to talk. She led me to a small office, closed the door. I sat in a chair that was too small, in a room that smelled like antiseptic and desperation. What happened to her? I asked. Where has she been for 31 years? Sarah took a deep breath. That's complicated. The woman you're about to meet, she's been living under the name Melissa Morrison for the past 3 decades. She's had no memory of her life before that. No memory of you, of her family, of anything that happened before December 1993. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Amnesia. Not exactly, Sarah said. She's been slowly recovering memories over the past few months. It started with nightmares, then flashbacks, then fragments of memories that didn't make sense with the life she thought she'd lived. 2 days ago, she had what we call a dissociative episode. She was found on a street corner in the downtown east side, unable to tell us who she was or where she lived. She kept saying she needed to find her father, that her father was looking for her. The downtown east side, I said slowly. That's where Amanda was last seen, Hastings Street. Sarah nodded. Mr. Mitchell, we believe your daughter was a victim of human trafficking. The memories she's recovering they're difficult. We have a counselor on staff who specializes in trauma, and she's been working with Amanda every day. But I need you to understand that the woman you're about to meet, she's not the same person who disappeared in 1993. She's been through things that changed her fundamentally. Can I see her now? I asked. Yes, Sarah said, but Mr. Mitchell, please, go slowly. Don't push her to remember things she's not ready to remember. Don't expect her to be the daughter you lost. She's finding her way back, but it's going to take time. She led me down a long hallway with fluorescent lights that buzzed overhead. We stopped in front of a door marked 407. Sarah knocked twice, then opened it. The woman sitting on the bed looked up when we entered. I stopped breathing. She had Amanda's eyes, dark brown, almost black, with those same flecks of gold around the pupils. She had Amanda's nose, slightly crooked from when she broke it playing soccer in 8th grade. She had Amanda's hands, long-fingered and elegant, now twisted together in her lap. But she was older, so much older than the 17-year-old girl in my memories. Her face was lined with years I hadn't been there to witness. Her hair was shorter, streaked with gray. She was thin, too thin, her cheekbones sharp beneath skin that looked paper-thin. Amanda, Sarah said gently, this is Robert Mitchell, your father. The woman looked at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then her eyes filled with tears. I remember you, she whispered. You built me a treehouse. You were afraid of heights, but you built it anyway because I wanted one. My legs gave out. I sat down hard in the chair by the bed, my vision blurring with tears I'd been holding back for 4 hours of driving. I did build you a treehouse, I said, when you were 7 years old. You wanted it to be as high as the clouds. She smiled, a small, fragile thing that broke my heart. I remember. And I remember the lucky moon. You said it would protect me from bad dreams. Did it work? I asked, even though I knew the answer, even though I could see in her eyes that it hadn't worked at all. Not always, she said softly, but I remembered it. Even when I forgot everything else, I remembered that you loved me enough to make up stories about birthmarks. We sat there for a long time, neither of us knowing what to say. Sarah had left the room quietly, giving us privacy for this impossible reunion. Finally, Amanda spoke. They told me I died, she said. The people who took me. They said my family thought I was dead, that no one was looking for me anymore, that I should forget who I was and be grateful they gave me a new life. I felt rage then, hot and immediate. Who took you? Who did this? I don't remember all of it yet, she said. The memories come in pieces. But I remember being at that bus stop. I was angry at Derek. That was the boy's name. We'd had a fight about something stupid. I was waiting for the bus home when a woman approached me. She said she worked at a shelter for runaway teens, that I looked upset, that I could come there if I needed somewhere safe to stay. She lied. She lied, Amanda confirmed. I woke up in a basement somewhere. They kept me drugged for months, years maybe. Time got confused. They gave me a new name, new identification, told me I was Melissa Morrison and I'd always been Melissa Morrison. Eventually, I believed them. How did you get away? I asked. I didn't, she said. Not really. They moved me around a lot over the years. Different cities, different jobs, always controlled. But about 2 years ago, something changed. The operation started falling apart. People were getting arrested. The ones running things started fighting among themselves. They left me in Vancouver with an apartment and a low-level job at a warehouse. I think they forgot about me, or maybe they thought I was too broken to run. But you remembered. Not at first, she said. For a long time, I really believed I was Melissa. But then the nightmares started. Dreams about a man building a treehouse, a woman making cinnamon rolls, 2 boys who were my brothers but I couldn't remember their names, and a crescent moon birthmark that someone used to call lucky. I started researching, looking up missing persons from the early 90s, and I found my face. My real face. Younger, but it was me. Amanda Mitchell, missing since December 14th, 1920s, presumed dead. Why didn't you contact us then, I asked. Because I saw that they'd found remains, she said. I saw that you'd buried someone you thought was me. I saw that the case was closed. And I thought, what right do I have to destroy your peace? You'd grieved. You'd moved on. Who was I to show up and say, hey, I'm actually alive, surprise? You should have called, I said. I was scared, she admitted. Scared that you wouldn't believe me, scared that I was wrong, that I was just some crazy woman having delusions. Scared that even if it was true, you wouldn't want me back. Not after all this time, not after everything. I reached out then, took her hand. It was cold, her fingers trembling in mine. I have never stopped wanting you back, I said. Not for one single day in 31 years. I visit your grave every Sunday. I kept your room exactly the way you left it. Your mother cried on your birthday every year. Your brothers named their daughters after you. We never moved on, Amanda. We just learned to survive without you. She was crying openly now, and so was I. 2 people who'd been destroyed by the same tragedy, finally finding each other on the other side of hell. The DNA test came back 3 days later. Elizabeth had driven to Vancouver by then, unable to stay away any longer. We were sitting in Sarah's office when she delivered the news. It's a match, she said. 99.9% probability. She's your daughter. Elizabeth made a sound, something between a laugh and a sob. We'd already known, of course. The birthmark, the memories, the way Amanda had Elizabeth's exact mannerisms when she was nervous. But having it confirmed, having science prove what our hearts already knew, that was different. How is this possible? Elizabeth asked. The remains they found. The DNA match. They said it was her. Sarah looked uncomfortable. I spoke with the detective who originally handled Amanda's case. He's retired now, but he remembers it clearly. The DNA technology in 1996 was nowhere near as sophisticated as it is today. The sample they had was severely degraded. The match they called probable was actually far less certain than they led you to believe. With today's technology, that sample would never have been considered a match at all. So we buried a stranger, I said. Sarah nodded. I'm sorry. The police are reopening the investigation now. They want to identify who those remains actually belong to, give that family closure, and they want to find the people who took Amanda. They're already finding them, Amanda said quietly from the doorway. We all turned. She was standing there in jeans and a sweater, looking more like herself than she had in the hospital gown. Detective Morrison called me this morning. That's actually how I chose the name Melissa Morrison. I saw his name on some paperwork and it stuck. Anyway, they've arrested 6 people so far. More arrests coming. Good, Elizabeth said fiercely. I hope they rot in prison. Amanda came into the room, sat down next to us. She looked at her hands, then at us. There's something else I need to tell you, she said. Something I haven't told anyone yet, not even the police. We waited. The woman who approached me at the bus stop that night. The one who said she worked at a shelter. I remembered her face last night, and I know where I've seen her before. She pulled out her phone, showed us a news article. My blood ran cold. That's Judge Catherine Wells, I said. She's been on the bench for 20 years. She's the one who took me, Amanda said. She was part of it, maybe running it. I don't have proof yet, not enough proof. But I remember her. I remember her voice, the way she smiled when she lied to me. And I'm going to make sure she pays for what she did. The investigation that followed was the biggest human trafficking case in British Columbia's history. Amanda's testimony led to the arrest of 47 people, including Judge Catherine Wells, 3 police officers who'd been protecting the operation, and a network of recruiters who'd been targeting vulnerable teenagers for decades. The trial lasted 8 months. Amanda testified for 3 days straight, describing in excruciating detail what had been done to her, how the operation worked, how many girls she'd seen come and go over the years. Elizabeth and I sat in the courtroom gallery, holding hands so tightly our fingers went numb, watching our daughter stand up and fight for justice. Judge Wells got 40 years. The others got sentences ranging from 10 to 30 years. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough, but it was something. Amanda moved back to Kelowna 6 months after the trial ended. She couldn't live in the house where she grew up. Too many memories, both good and bad. So we bought her a small apartment downtown, close enough that we could visit whenever she wanted, far enough that she had her independence. We had to learn each other all over again. She was 48 years old, I was 63. We'd both lived entire lifetimes apart. The daughter I remembered was 17, full of teenage rebellion and dreams about becoming a veterinarian. The woman who came back was a survivor, shaped by trauma and loss and a strength I couldn't begin to comprehend. But we tried. We had family dinners every Sunday. We went to therapy together, separately, in every combination we could think of. We talked about the past, about the missing years, about how to move forward. Her brothers came to visit. David and Michael had been 14 and 11 when Amanda disappeared. They remembered her, but their memories were unreliable, colored by grief and time. The woman they met now was a stranger who happened to share their DNA, but they tried. They brought photos, helped fill in gaps in her memory. David told her about his kids, her niece and nephew she'd never met. Michael told her about his wife, his career as a teacher, the life he'd built. Amanda cried during those visits, mourned the decades she'd lost with them. But slowly, carefully, they built something new. She started taking classes at the community college, said she wanted to become a social worker, wanted to help trafficking survivors, wanted to take her nightmare and turn it into something that might help someone else. I thought about how proud I was of her, this woman who'd survived the unsurvivable, who'd lost herself and found her way back. One day, about a year after she'd come home, we were having coffee in her apartment. She'd made cinnamon rolls from Elizabeth's recipe, called her mom 3 times to get it right. They were slightly overdone, but they tasted like forgiveness. "I've been thinking about the treehouse," she said suddenly. I remembered. "Why did you build it if you were afraid of heights?" I looked at her across the table, at this daughter who'd been dead and was alive, who'd been lost and was found, who'd been Melissa and was Amanda and was herself. "Because you wanted one," I said simply. "Because you were mine, and I would have climbed mountains if you'd asked me to." She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "That's good," she said, "because I think I might need you to climb a few more mountains before we're done." "Then that's what I'll do," I told her. "However many mountains, however long it takes, I'm not going anywhere." And I meant it. We'd lost 31 years. We'd never get them back. The people who took those years from us were behind bars, but that didn't erase what happened. Amanda still had nightmares. She still flinched at loud noises, still couldn't stand being in crowded spaces. There were days when the weight of her trauma was so heavy she couldn't get out of bed. But we had now. We had whatever time was left, and I intended to make every second of it count. Because my daughter had come home. Not the same, not whole, not healed, but alive, fighting, building a new life from the ruins of the old one. And that was enough. It had to be enough. Sometimes I drive by that cemetery where we buried the remains we thought were hers. The headstone is still there. Amanda Mitchell, beloved daughter and sister, 1,976 to 1,993. We talked about removing it, but Amanda said no. She said it should stay there as a memorial for whoever that girl really was, whoever died and went unidentified for so long. So we leave flowers there sometimes, for the unknown girl we buried by mistake, and we're grateful that our story had a different ending. Judge Wells died in prison 3 years into her sentence. Heart attack, they said. Amanda didn't go to the funeral. She said she'd already spent enough of her life thinking about that woman. The others are still serving their sentences. Every few months, one of them comes up for parole. Every few months, Amanda writes a victim impact statement explaining why they should stay behind bars. Every few months, the parole board agrees with her. It's been 5 years now since that phone call at 3:47 a.m. 5 years of rebuilding, healing, learning to be a family again. Amanda graduated with her degree in social work last year. She works with a nonprofit that helps trafficking survivors reintegrate into society. She's good at it, better than most, because she understands what they're going through in a way no one else can. She's dating someone now, a good man who works as a counselor and understands her trauma. They take things slow, but I can see the way he looks at her, like she's the strongest person he's ever met, because she is. Elizabeth and I are getting older. I'm 68 now, she's 67. We've started talking about retirement, about selling the house and moving somewhere smaller. Amanda says she'll help us pack when we're ready, says she'll even tackle that bedroom we kept frozen in time for 3 decades. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night and have to remind myself that it's real, that she came back, that miracles actually do happen, even to people like us who'd stopped believing in them. The treehouse is still in our backyard. It's falling apart now, weathered and rotting, probably not safe anymore. Amanda says we should tear it down, build something new in its place. Maybe a garden, she suggests, something that grows. I think that's a good idea, because that's what we're doing now, all of us. Growing, healing, building something new from what was broken. It's not the life we lost. It's not the 31 years we'll never get back, but it's ours, and it's real, and it's more than we ever thought we'd have again. My daughter was buried 31 years ago, but last week she called to tell me she got a promotion at work. Next month we're going on a family vacation together, all of us, for the first time in over 3 decades. The dead don't come back to life. Everyone knows that. But sometimes, in the rarest of circumstances, when the stars align and hope refuses to die, sometimes they do. And when they do, you hold on tight and never let go again. That's the story of how I got my daughter back from the dead and how we brought down the monsters who stole her life. If you found this story powerful, please share it. There are thousands of missing persons cases out there, thousands of families still waiting, still hoping. Some of those people might still be alive, trapped in situations like Amanda was. The more awareness we spread, the more chance we have of bringing them home. Thank you for listening, and never, ever stop hoping.